Hello and welcome. My name's Sam and this is the Little Greenhouse Creates. Thank you for joining me today and welcome to our final card for this week's stamp set of the week, Sunset Coast. It is a beautiful stamp set with 16 dies with images and sentiments. Plus we've got the stamp set dies that some of these match the actual, so you've got the cove or the cave here that you can cut out. You've got the little boats that you can cut out, but you've got 3 added extra centerpieces which we're going to use today, or one of them today anyway. And we've also got the papers. If you want to see a run through of any of these, pop back to Monday's video where you can see me go through it in more detail. So today's card is this one. It is a funky fold. It's got a window sheet. It's held together with a window sheet, and you can see we've got the designer series paper and everything. So let's bring in our supplies. So the first thing I've got is a piece of blueberry bushel. Now this measures 11 inches by 4 inches, and I've scored it at the 4-inch mark. We're going to need to cut that, so I'm going to keep that there for a moment. I have a window sheet which measures 4 inches by 5 3/8. I have a piece of white cardstock which measures 3.5 by 3.5. I have a gorgeous grape measuring 3 3/4 by 5, 3 3/4 by 5 1/4. I have a white piece which measures, now this white piece is 3.5 by 5. I have 4 pieces of gorgeous grape. She says yes, they are 4 pieces. Each one measures exactly the same, which is 1 inch by 3.5. Okay. I then have 2 pieces of designer series paper which measure 1 inch by 3.5. Hang on a second. Apologies. Let's go back a step. These 3 measure 1 1/4 by 3 3/4. So that's 1 1/4 by 3 3/4. And then I have 2 pieces that measure 1 by 3.5. Okay, that's those. That's that sorted. Then I have a piece of designer series paper which measures 3.5 by 2.5. And last but by no means least, 1/2 inch by 2 3/4 sentiment strip. So let's do the stamping first. And so it's very easy. It's one piece and it's just the sentiment. I'm using the Simply Said Happy Birthday. Now this is on the last chance. It's been reduced to £8. So as of recording this video, I did check, it is still there. So please, if you fancy this stamp set, then do pop along to the last chance. Okay. And if any of you have seen my videos before, you will notice that I have used this excuse me, stamp set quite a lot, especially this Happy Birthday. Okay, so that's the Happy Birthday done. So now we need to do a little bit of cutting. So let's bring in our oh, excuse me, bring in my trimmer. And what I'm going to do, so this is the front part. I'm going to put the edge of it up to the 4-inch mark, and I'm going to cut. So you've got this inch here. Oh, it's actually 1.5 inches. Yeah, it's 1.5 inches. Then what you're going to do is you are going to cut off 1.5 inches. There we go. There, and there are 2 pieces. So this now is scrap, so we don't need that. That is all I need for the card. So the first thing to do is to put our layer in the middle. So this is the gorgeous grape, and this is the one that measures 3 3/4 by 5 1/4, and I'm going to stick that down with my multi-purpose glue. There we go. Stick that down straight. Lovely. And I'm going to put my white piece in the middle as well. Lovely. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we are going to stick our window sheet down. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put some tear and tape, which I've left. So bear with me a second. I'm just going to rummage in my box and grab my tear and tape. So I've got a supply kit box that I keep to the side of me for emergencies, just like this. And then I can pull my tear and tape out. Right, let's put that down there for the moment. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to put a slice of the tear and tape at the very bottom of the window sheet, like so. And then I'm going to do exactly the same at the top. Across. And then you just tear. Okay. Oh, excuse me. So, taking off the top strip, like so, you're going to put your bottom layer right down at the edge of the blue here. Okay, making sure it's right at the edge and it's even on both sides. You can now bring this over and that will hold it in place for you. Okay, you can, if you want to, put another layer of tape on it. Depends on how you feel. I think we actually might do that. So let's just measure it. There we go. It might just help to keep it flat. Let's do that. So all you do is you pop a piece down there. Obviously, if you're doing it and that's what you decide, put it on before. Let's peel that. Come on. There we go. And then you can flip that over like so. And then that goes all the way down. Right, so this is our second piece. And then what we're going to do is we're going to put a strip along here so that it counteracts the top of that one. So let's do that. So in theory, you now have two pieces on each strip. So you can take the backing off of that one, make sure that folds over. Oh, excuse me. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to not take all of it off, I'm just going to fold it, she says, to there. And then what I'm going to do now is I'm going to make sure that my edge is all the way across to the end. And I'm happy with that. Then I can take that extra off. So now we've got the actual design of the card. So it literally comes down to decorating it. So the first thing to do is we are going to put our piece of designer series paper in the middle. So my suggestion is that you work out roughly where it's going to go. That's it. And then you can hold it down and just put a dot in place at the top and a dot in place at the bottom, which we can remove at a later date with a glue rubber. So what I've done is, I don't know if you noticed, but I've numbered these. So this is number 2, and it's going to go at the top. Okay, so number 2, because the first piece is going to be at the top, and then number 3 will be at the piece at the bottom. And that's how I've cut them. So I cut them a strip. So the first strip was, let me think, what is the first strip? So the first strip was 1 inch by 3.5. Then we had the 3.5 by 2.5 strip, and then we had another 1 inch strip, and I just cut it going down the papers. So let's make sure we're in the right place. Perfect. There we go. And I will get my rubber. I'll just remove that little pencil mark. There we go. There we go. Right. And that gives you your spot in place there. So the next thing to do is to add our 2 pieces of contrast card on the front. So that's 1. That will go on there, like so. Then we'll put our second piece down here. Perfect. Then we've got our designer series paper. So this is the first one that goes up here. So let's do that. Right. That is going to go there. I just want to make sure that it lines up with the sides of the paper here and that it's straight. Lovely. And then we're going to do exactly the same with the bottom piece. There we go. Okay. So now we've got the strips. So taking our 3.5 by 3.5, we're going to bring in the die. Now this is the lighthouse. Brain's gone then. I've also brought in my spotlight on nature, and that fits perfectly over there like so. So you're going to run that through, but my suggestion is that you pop a little bit of washi tape just to keep the 2 in place. Obviously I'm taking most of the stick off because I don't want it to tear. So you're going to just do that. That will keep it in place. Run it through the cut and emboss machine and it comes out looking like so. So this now will sit here on our card. And it's up to you how we do it. So you can put it more over to the left if you wish. You could put it higher up so that it sits on both. So you can put a tag up there and a tag down there, or you can just center it, which is what I think I'm going to do for this one. So I now know that my glue doesn't go any higher than this section here. Otherwise I'm going to end up putting glue onto the glass, which I don't want. So anything down here is going to get a bit of glue, she says. I'm only going to put dobs or dabs of glue on. I don't want it to ooze out. There we go. And this will help keep it in place. Hopefully that doesn't go too high. Yeah, that's about right. Okay, so I'm going to bring that over now. And I'm going to bring it down. And I'm going to hold it in place. There we go. For a couple of moments. As you can see, the sun is rising there. That is the focal image. And then all we need to do is to put our happy birthday on the front there. Now I'm going to use my dimensionals. There's one in the middle and one either side. There we go. Turn those off with my pointy tool. There. Okay, so the only other thing to do now is to take our 2 extra strips and we're going to pop those over the top like that, and that's going to help to disguise the double-sided tape that we've got on there. It's not going to fully disguise it, but it's going to help to disguise it. My suggestion again is to use the multi-purpose. I'm going to put a piece there, like so. Hold it for a couple of seconds and then turn it around and do the other end. Hold those for a couple of seconds just to keep them in place. Right, so if we look at our card, when you open it up, you can now put your choose Fred blogs, lots of love, me at the bottom. So you've got your area for your writing. If you wanted to, you could change that and put that whole piece, instead of having the white piece, which is the 3.5 by 5, you could just have a whole piece of designer series paper going down, and then put your white piece on the back for your writing. But on this occasion, I've decided to have it like so. So thank you ever so much for joining me for this week. I hope you like these cards. They've been great fun to create. It's always nice to do a funky fold that's slightly different. Do join me again next week when we have a new stamp set. I'm looking forward to catching up with you then. Have a lovely weekend, and I hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.